Hello and welcome to the webinar. We are ready to begin our program, so let's get started. I would like to introduce your host and presenter for today's event, Dave Kyle.
Hello and welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining us today. We have a lot of great stuff to talk to you about with Office 365. This actually is a webinar that we had put together based on a previous webinar we did in January, so we had a lot of good input and have a few folks here I want to introduce for you in a second. But before we get started, just a few housekeeping things. Our webinar will be wrapped up before 1 o'clock today. As we see on the screen, you should hear audio now. There's some dial-in information and an access code if you're having any troubles with that as well. This is a live event for a general audience, and really encourage questions that you might find in your control panel. Actually, questions you can provide to us in your control panel. So you'll see your GoToWebinar control panel. You'll have a little tab there for questions, and at any time, please feel free to put something in there. I'll be keeping an eye out for things and try to answer any of your questions during the event. And if we can't, we'll follow up with an email. I'm with Ease Technologies, and we were founded in 1993. We're located here in Columbia, Maryland. We provide IT managed services and secure cloud solutions. We'll bring this back up again for those of in the webinar that know us. We have many of our customers with us today, but we also have a lot of friends that who are familiar with us. But if any time we can help you out with any IT solutions, by all means, please feel free to contact us. So presenters today, Matt Schmidt is actually remote, and we'll be checking in with us here in a little bit. Chris Bubeck is here with me. He's one of our account managers. Chris, how you doing today?
Doing well, Dave. Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have Chris with us and Matt. Both gentlemen work closely with our accounts and have a lot of good insight about Office 365 and how it's being used and utilized in the accounts themselves. So let's talk about our agenda real quick. We're going to cover a little bit of an overview of Office 365, then specifically get into a few different areas, one of which is 365 Online, OneNote, which is one of the applications that is both online as well as an application, a newer program called Teams, and then a few items about PowerPoint, and finally just a few ideas, a grab bag of tech tips. Before we get started, we'd like to share a little bit of a poll with everyone who's attending right now, just to get a sense of a number of folks who are using Office 365. So I'm going to submit that to everyone right now and just take a minute to launch that and see who's using Office 365. So please take a minute to let me know if you're a power user, only limited features that you are familiar with, not interested, not using Office 365, but interested, and some of you may not even be sure if you're using Office 365 or not. I'll give it a few more seconds. Looks like everyone responded pretty, just in general, so everyone knows, we have about 14% say they're a power user, 62% say yes, they do use Office 365, but only limited features. About 20% are do not use Office 365, and 5% are not sure. All right, so I'm going to close the poll here so we can keep moving forward, but thank you for sharing. That helps us get an idea who is on the webinar with us. Great. So let's talk about an overview of Office 365. Again, majority of the people on the webinar are really loosely familiar with it, it sounds like, and we want to kind of dig a little deeper. Chris, you work with a lot of our accounts and have the opportunity to get together with them and discussing some of their needs. And I know Office 365 is a really big part of that conversation. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more when you're getting together with them and what you're talking about?
Sure, Dave. Thank you very much. As Dave mentioned, I'm an account manager with Ease Technologies. Some of you are aware that I meet with our clients on a regular basis to cover their technology and make recommendations, based on best practices, industry best practices. Also, what's best for the organization. Speak to them about their goals, what they're looking for, what their issues are, but definitely taking into consideration costs, both short and long term, for our clients. And many of our new partnerships or our incoming clients, we find that they have on-site email servers or Exchange servers, as we call them. Exchange is simply the software that allows you to use your email. And I'm usually making the recommendation immediately to migrate the organization's email service from that on-site solution to Microsoft Office 365. I'll get into why in a little bit, but just an overview of what exactly Microsoft Office 365 is. It's a subscription-based service which affords users not only the email exchange platform that I just mentioned, but a wide selection of other services. Just off the top of my head, some of the ones that are available to almost all Office 365 subscribers are things such as a SharePoint, or sometimes called TeamSite, the Microsoft Office products that all of you are familiar with. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. There's also Skype for Business, Microsoft Planner. We're going to be talking about Teams and going in a little bit more depth into that too. These are all accessible via Microsoft's cloud from any supported web browser on any machine with internet access. And that's a very important piece and something that I try to stress with my clients, and find that a lot of users don't really realize what they're getting out of this subscription. So to kind of go back to what I was speaking about our clients and the on-site servers, I'll go in a little bit more depth on that. Many of your organizations that may be using or have used managed on-site servers to host your email or Exchange, along with other applications within Office 365, Microsoft is now hosting these via these subscription packages. So just like any cloud service, they take the management, the updating of the software and the hardware. These are cloud servers, the maintenance and the overhead of these servers, and taking care of all of this for you. It allows your organization really to scale as well. For instance, if your organization is growing and you have an on-site Exchange server, you are at the mercy of the hardware and the storage that's available to you there. Microsoft Office 365, you can scale with it and increase as you grow for very low cost, and you can decrease as well. Office 365 affords you much larger mailboxes than an on-site Exchange server. Generally at least 50 gigabyte size mailboxes, sometimes upwards of 100, and there's some unlimited packages too. There are different levels of subscription packages or licenses, however you want to really describe it. But generally what we're talking about and focusing on today are the baseline subscription levels of Office 365. So almost everything we're going to be talking about today is available to every Office 365 user. There are certain features or extensions or other advantages for the higher level subscription packages. Dave is going to mention one of those a little bit later in the webinar. But for the most part, what we're going to be speaking about today and focusing on is what all of you who answer the question that you do have Office 365 actually have today. A lot of the Office 365 end users, and not necessarily decision makers or executives, or the ones who are kind of involved in the migration process of this, in my conversations, don't seem to realize that all of these items, including your Outlook, which everyone is generally very familiar with using, are accessible via any internet browser. So if your local Outlook program or Office application, such as Word, isn't working correctly, or you simply aren't on your main work computer, so you don't have your configured Outlook right in front of you, you can always access these items via any internet browser. So whether you're at a hotel lobby computer, a friend's computer, a secondary computer that you don't have these applications installed, you can, for the most part, perform this same work or access this same data through the Microsoft Cloud secure servers, as long as you have an internet connection and an internet browser. So Chrome, Firefox, Safari, just a couple off the top of my head. So you should have the ability to access your email and these applications no matter where you are, as long as you have an internet connection. So that's, Dave, that's an overview of what Office 365 is, how my conversations are kind of geared towards our clients in regards to this. Obviously, there's much more to it, and we're going to get into some of that.
Great.
But that's the baseline kind of description of the service itself. And as long as the the customer or the users or you kind of understand how this is a subscription based on the licensing, then
Yeah,
you can kind of go from there.
it's a big change from what used to be done with, you'd license a server, you'd license applications, or you'd license packages on the desktop. It's just the all you can eat kind of scenario of you license per user is a lot different scenario. The one thing I do want to mention on pricing, just from a nonprofit standpoint.
Correct.
And what's the big difference on that again?
Well, for as of today, there are subscription packages that are available for nonprofits that are at no cost,
Yeah.
which is very attractive. I don't know if there's any nonprofit users on our webinar today, but it's always good to know, and it really just speaks to how aggressive Microsoft is with this product and how they're really trying to get it out there. And we are, big proponents of this product, not only obviously not just for nonprofits, but for any client base. And in the end, Dave, to piggyback on what you just said, it allows our clients to plan easier and to add resources and users, and to know that when you add that user, they're getting this package that they can utilize. And we want to make sure that everyone's aware of what they may have today.
Let's actually drill down a little bit into the online version of this, because this is one of the ones that we really see that most people don't understand or are familiar with. And so we've talked about this being a cloud services component now, and not just a desktop. And from what we see, most of our clients and people I speak with understand you have Microsoft Excel and Word and Outlook on your desktop computer or your laptop. What a lot of people are overlooking, what we want to introduce, is all the other available ways to get to those services, those applications, things like that. And again, we already described Exchange Server now is in the cloud. Microsoft takes care of that for you. You have your applications for your Macintoshes and PCs. And then one of the things that Microsoft's been doing a lot of lately is applications for mobile devices. Okay, so you can get Outlook for your iPhone. You can get some of these newer applications like Teams and OneNote and other things like that are applications you can download for your phone. And then what we want to show for you today and is the online versions of this through your browser. So, Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you for a second to let you explain what we mean by that. And I'm going to jump out of the slideshow here, and start showing everyone the browser components.
Sure.
Of this.
So while Dave is making the switch over, just to kind of go in a little bit more detail about that. Most users know how to use their Outlook on their computer, know how to use Microsoft Word, Excel. But what Dave is going to show you is the Microsoft Office 365 portal. That's how I like to call it. It's a portal. Every user, as long as you have really an email address or an Office 365 account, which is generally your email address, will have access to this portal, which will show the different applications or different items that the user has access to. Depending on what level of access the user is afforded, they'll see what they have access to. So this includes the items that we were talking about with regards to SharePoint, OneDrive, which we could probably have a webinar on its own to talk about, the Teams and then, of course, your Office applications. The higher level Microsoft Office 365 subscriptions can afford users the ability to download your Microsoft Office applications to your computer. Most of our clients don't utilize this subscription package, but almost all of the Office 365 subscriptions allow you to use these products within the portal. And to kind of elaborate on that, you can use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook in your web browser, and these are just as full featured as your desktop apps. They may look a little bit slightly different, but you have the ability to open Excel documents in the browser and even make edits, review, make an edit, send it back to a teammate or a client. It's a quick way to use those Office applications in the cloud, and they call them the online Office applications. Right. And that's what Dave was talking about.
Yeah. So if again, it really works out well if you have multiple computers, or if you have a desktop computer at home and you're trying to take advantage of all these applications without having to install everything there, or if you have an older computer that maybe can't load up all these applications, so you can jump around into these online versions of this. So again, most people don't realize this. Most people don't take advantage of this, and we just want to introduce it. So, I'm right now in Chrome on a Macintosh, and I'm going through it. I've opened up a few of the different applications that are available. I kind of have a super user set up, so I have everything. You may not have all these applications, but you can see the common ones here are Excel and Word, and some
Generally, any subscription level
Yeah.
should have most of these.
And you can see that it actually looks pretty much like you'd see on your desktop version. You can get to different ways of editing this. You can edit the document in Word or in the browser. So you have a lot of different ways to access it. And a lot of the same threads and ribbons that you may be familiar with here are all available to you. There's some pared down functionality, but for the most part, I'd say 90% of it's there.
Yep, I would say so.
All right, cool. Let's keep moving along. We want to introduce this to you. This is one of the first things, if you are using Office 365, be aware of this one for yourself because it's really pretty good. All right, I'm going to jump back to the presentation. Find my arrow here. And we are going to move forward into one of the applications we wanted to share with you. Now, OneNote's been around for a little bit, and but it's one of the applications that we think you should be aware of if you aren't using it to become more familiar with it and check it out. Chris, you want to share a little bit more about it?
Sure. And just to start off, in general, most of these applications within Office 365 are linked in some way. So you can access these notes or calendar event or conversation with a teammate through other avenues in Office 365. And we're going to start with OneNote, and it's going to kind of flow into Teams, which is what Dave is going to talk to us about. So what is OneNote? OneNote is a note gathering and collaboration tool. Okay. The application gathers the user's notes, and they can be handwritten with a stylus or typed, drawings, screen clippings, and even audio commentaries. Notes can be shared with other OneNote users over the internet or just your local network. So it's in the short term, it's a note-taking application. But why OneNote? Really, it's unlike a word processor. It separates itself from a word processor such as Word because users can write anywhere or type anywhere on a virtually unbounded document window by just clicking anywhere on the notebook. Users do not need to explicitly save their work. OneNote saves the data automatically as the user is working. Okay, you have to try to think of it as not a standalone notebook because it is accessible and linked to other avenues within Office 365. The notebooks can be shared and viewed within Teams. How can you use it?
We'll show that in a second. Here.
Yep, we're gonna get to that shortly and how to access
about
via
where
Teams.
We can get it as well. So we'll just jump over to a little bit more elaborating on what is it and some of the things you were talking to me about why you like it so much.
So it's really what most of the users or the feedback that I received from it, and a lot of my coworkers here use it as well. It's just a very flexible note-taking application. So it's meant to be used easily on the fly or in a professional manner. Okay, and we'll show a demonstration shortly and some example notebooks. But and really, you can pull up any note at any time, and it is not format. It is not so format stringent. In other words, it's very flexible. You can type anywhere on the screen, clip a picture or an image anywhere. You don't lose the quality of the image as well. You can email notes to yourself. It's very free form. And again, you can be used for your work or your personal.
I'm going to switch over to the app while you're talking there.
Sure. And just while he's doing that, OneNote, there's a hierarchy of how OneNote saves documents or notes. First, it's a notebook is the large overview of your notes, and those are divided into sections, which are divided into pages. Okay, so on Dave's screen, and for our demonstration purposes today, we've used the real life example of an office move. Okay, and as you can see, he has accessed his office move notebook, and within the notebook, he has listed in the middle there under notes, lease documents, meeting notes, pictures. Those are sections, okay? And go ahead and go back, Dave.
Sure.
Click on IT setup,
the
section there. Within that section, he has pages. He has pages. So we have the different pages here: a floor plan for a wireless assessment, IT inventory, network equipment, and then one called new information. So again, just to kind of in summary, that these are pages that are within sections that are within your Office Move notebook. Okay, and each one of these levels can be shared out to your teammates or coworkers. So whether they be someone or anybody or somebody outside of the organization, if you'd like, either a contractor or again a teammate who's sharing the duties of organizing this Office Move with you. Okay, the pages can be arbitrarily large. Bitmap images can be inserted without loss of quality. And again, there is no enforced uniform page layout or structure. I think everyone who has used Microsoft Word knows how frustrating it can be when it kind of forces you to format in a certain way. It is just not a good note-taking application. I've tried several. I think this is the best one. It is the most free form and flexible.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a few samples up here. We were trying to just follow the idea if there was an office move that somebody was doing. You're gathering pictures, you're gathering notes, you're sharing ideas. This is our old office. We hate it. We're going to go to a new office. We're going to get some new coffee maker. So we're sort of grabbing things from the internet and pictures and ideas and sharing them. And so again, we wanted to demonstrate the freeform idea that there's a variety of data sets that can be thrown in here and then ultimately shared as well if need be. I'm going to move out. This is the application that runs on the Macintosh. There is, of course, a version for Windows and a mobile version for devices that are like iPhones and Windows-based platform there. So I'm going to switch over to my browser, and I'm going to jump over to, let's see if I have this set up here. It's Teams. I'm going to jump over to OneNote. And actually what I'm going to show you here is there's a little clipping capability. This is the one feature I think most people enjoy about this application. And when I use a note-taking app, the thing I want to have it to do for me is clip things off the internet. We do a lot of our research, information gathering. Certainly we can grab pictures while we're out in the field doing stuff, but oftentimes I want to grab a picture of something. And this particular clip tool allows me to grab something, and I have a couple different ways I can do it. I can grab the full page, I can grab just a section of the article, or in this case, I'm going to grab a snippet of information off the screen. So I'm going to grab this, and it's going to grab just that image for me. It's going to save it in my default location, new space for my Office Move.
And you can select another notebook or page or section if you like.
I can move around anywhere I want to go within my existing OneNote notebooks.
Right.
I'm going to clip it, and once it's going to save it out to a OneDrive, it's told me it's successful. Now, instead of going back to my application for demonstration purposes, I'm going to just open up OneNote in the browser. And you can see this is where this was clipped for me right in the browser. It gives me a URL where I got it right away. But now I'm in OneNote Online as opposed to OneNote over here, which was OneNote on my application. And if I were to open up my iPhone, this same clipping would automatically show over there. And if I was sharing this with somebody else, this would automatically show up over there.
Everything is synced via the Microsoft server. Right.
So here's some other clips that I did as well.
And this can be, another this is a great example to use in just your personal life. I mean,
right.
you see a recipe online, take a quick snapshot of that or a screen capture, and it'll paste automatically to your recipes or your grocery list.
So a lot of people do that. They obviously keep a whole extensive work set of notebooks, but they also have personal notebooks. You're traveling somewhere. I know I use my notebooks if I'm going away on vacation. I like to go to Napa Valley for some wine tasting. So I'll grab news articles, clippings, things like that, and create them together in a notebook for myself about traveling and doing things like that. So there's a lot of great ways to use OneNote Online. We're going to keep moving forward. I'm going to go back to our presentation. Question real quick on OneNote. There were some other questions I saw too. It seems like OneNote basically is an alternative to Evernote, and the answer is yes, it is. And I would suggest that I use OneNote extensively. I know Chris does as well. That OneNote offers a lot of the same things, and in some cases more than what Evernote provides.
Right. Well, and I was an Evernote user for quite a while as well, but I do, and they do have some, just like Dave said, they do have similar features. Now I find that OneNote is better for a team environment. I find that it's a little bit more flexible with the note taking. I still find that Evernote's a little bit closer to a word processor than an actual note taking application. But again, this is all linked together via the Microsoft Cloud, so
Right.
we can use this as a collaboration tool as well. And also, I found that Evernote is quietly taking down their features and the number of devices you can install it on, and pretty soon it's going to well, they already are charging
Well,
for
they're charging
subscriptions,
for it, yeah.
but pretty soon I think everyone's going to have to pay for it in some way. This is obviously included as part of any Office 365 package that I've seen.
So let's move over to Teams. And Teams was introduced as a new application and set of features that was introduced originally back in November. And then about March, they released it to everybody. So Teams is a collaboration point where OneNote is a note-taking area. Teams is a collaboration area. We're going to talk who's it for, how can we use it, and also where can I get it. And we're going to give you an example of this like we did with OneNote. So who's it for is for a group of people. There's some competitors out there that have been out there for a while. One's called Basecamp, another one's Slack. And those are other companies that have created similar types of products. And what this mostly is for organizations working together to collaborate online. And most of it comes down to real-time sharing and conversations. And those conversations can not only have to just be words. They can be video. They can be files, planning documents, and things like that.
OneNote notebooks.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll show you that as well. One of the, I think, very interesting features of Teams is that it integrates Office 365 applications. So as you create a team to start sharing information, you can integrate, like in our case here, we were describing the move. We created a notebook for the move. We could integrate a notebook with the teams, and they all becomes part of a group of information brought together.
That can be updated live.
Right. Correct. So let's actually get over to it. I'll show you what we have, what Teams looks like. I'll do the same thing as we've done before. I'll switch my screens and get over to Teams. And right now we're in my browser, but I'm going to switch over to Teams over here. Okay. And you can see we have a series of teams established already. Okay. So this is one team. This is another team. And here's a third one that we started when we started doing the webinar originally.
And I should clarify. So these teams can be either coworkers that perform similar duties or they're in a department together. So an HR group, an IT group, but these can also be teams that are labeled as a project,
right?
Like the Office Move team,
right?
So it's flexible, and
so you can create conversations inside here. So you have a general conversation. We can have a conversation about contractors. So, Chris and I were having a conversation about contractors. I asked him for any help. Chris, I'm going to send you another note here and see if you can keep up with this one for me. Any update, if I got that right. And then Chris has that pop up on his screen right away. He'll get notice that, I made a communication to him, and he's going to reply back to me. And he said, nothing yet. Now, that was real time. I have options to attach documents, information, pictures, things like that. And I could also sort of video chat. I could jump in right now if Chris was not with me, and I could start a video and say, why don't you have this started for me right now? What can you help me out with? And we could have a live video conferencing at this point in time.
And within that actual conversation, you could start another conversation down below.
A new thread of conversations. Right. Well, let's say, what ideas do we have for new contractors?
Right.
So this is a threaded message. Now, the beauty of all this and where this sits as compared to other tools and mechanisms for sharing this kind of information is typically we're using this with email. And emails get lost in a variety of threads and a lot of locations. This becomes very much an area where you can keep things together and go back to them again. Okay, and you know exactly where it would be kept, documents, information, all stored together. As opposed to in an email thread, which sometimes we all encounter, which is now, where's that email? We're able to keep the conversations threaded together. Let's take a look over here. What we did and what you can do is you can add. So for example, I can add any number of I could add Planner. And if you're familiar with Planner, it's a way to organize sort of a project management component. So I could add Planner as part of what I'm doing. These are other applications and other utilities within Office 365. I could do a Word document specifically. I could do YouTube and plugins basically for all this. So we did the plugin for the Office Notes move, and I click over here, and right away that one of those that same notebook that we created for OneNote is now part of this conversation for us. And I can add, delete, make changes, and within Teams work with this as part of what we're doing as part of a larger collaboration area.
Right. So for instance, I could say via the team chat or conversation, I should say, actually, Dave, what furniture were you thinking? He can share that page, that furniture page with me via the conversation.
Exactly.
Right.
And I just switched screens. I moved out of Teams, out of my application. Okay. And now moving to my browser. And you can see here, here's Teams to the browser. It looks almost identical. I mean, the same kind of conversations are happening. Let's look up the contractor conversation that we have. This should be updating and syncing for me. There it is, nothing yet. And I can reply back and say, thank you. And a message just popped up on Chris's computer next to me here indicating that I got my message. I'm going to stop right here because there's a lot to this as well as other ones. What we wanted to do is introduce the idea of OneNote and Teams and understand there's two different applications, different purposes, but what Microsoft is doing is allowing you to integrate these different tool sets, these different capabilities to collaborate together within your environments. One's a conversation, one's planning, one could be notes, but you can bring them all together. All right, see any questions on that? I have some other questions I know too, and I haven't, we'll get to those in a moment. Let's get my mouse back. Chris is laughing at me here. All right, there we go. I had a question. In order to use Teams, do other team members need to have Office 365? Yes. It's based around Office 365 licensing. It is relatively new. They're trying to add new features. I know there's a group conversation and group list that Microsoft's keeping about the features and how they work. They came out with, I'd say, probably 80% of what everybody wants. There's new features coming out, though, and some of them include like taking old notebooks from OneNote and adding them in. Right now, you can only use a brand new notebook and create things.
But I should add that almost every Office 365 subscription package, I believe, every one includes Teams.
Okay, yeah, it's one of the ones they've decided to add for all licensing.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to come back and move forward a little bit. And Matt, I'm going to move over to you. And finally, actually, just to close out where we're at, it's, where can I find Teams? So right now, today, you can already download a lot of your Windows and Macintosh versions for all this once you're in Office online. So there's a window there, you can download it. The mobile apps can be downloaded from your Apple Store and in other places you'd normally get your apps for your Android and Windows to Macintosh, or not Macintosh, your Android, your Windows, and your iOS devices. And also, as we described already, your online browser, which we're trying to really beat a dead horse on, but we really want you to recognize that one. So again, you can find it in 3 different locations. And Matt, I'm going to see if I can find you here.
I'm here.
Okay, Matt, I think you're only coming in. Let me check your audio.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you okay. Please go ahead. We want to ask you to share a little bit about some PowerPoint online, some things you've been identifying and looking at for us, and please let us know what you found out.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. I think everybody is familiar with what PowerPoint is. If you're not, it's a slide presentation application that's been available for the desktop and laptops for many, many years. Now this is part of Office 365 with the PowerPoint online version. There's also mobile app versions as well for Android and iOS devices. This gives you, the PowerPoint Online gives you the ability to create, edit, or present slides from any web browser on any internet-connected device. Next slide.
Yep.
So there are a couple differences. I would say, I agree kind of with what you guys were saying about Word and some of the other applications. I would say about 90% of the feature sets that are in the desktop and laptop applications, full-blown applications, are available on the online versions. Certainly, most everything that I use on a regular basis is there, but there are some differences. A couple of highlights are there's no built-in zoom now to the application. Instead, you would use the zoom for the web browser itself to make a presentation bigger. File protection, if you are someone that needs to be able to put passwords to password lock or use digital signatures within a presentation, these are not available on the online versions. So that would be something you would want to steer back towards the desktop and the laptop applications. Find and replace is not available on the online version yet. That's probably a feature that they'll be adding pretty soon, because that's fairly simple. And one big difference, which is actually a positive, is that saving is automatic. And Dave and I were joking a little bit earlier that the first time I used the online version, it took me about 3 minutes to realize that there was no save button. So it does save as you go, which is a really handy feature for people that forget to save and then their application freezes.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I have a couple other applications I use on my Macintosh that have that automatic save feature there, and there's a certain amount of convenience to that. It's certainly a little bit of a change in how you work with it, but I do like it.
Yeah, it can be a real lifesaver for sure. So a couple of tips for you for the online version. The first one I think is really quite interesting, because I think everybody's familiar with cut, copying, and paste. So if you copy something from within an application to another document or between applications, when you used to do that on your desktop or your laptop, it was pretty straightforward. The computer itself would remember using a clipboard what you were copying or cutting and pasting. Now, with online apps, there's now an online clipboard. So Microsoft has created something within the browser itself so that you can still use those same short keys to cut, copy, and paste and go between online apps within one web browser. So it's really quite a clever way of bringing some of that same features and functionality that you have in the full-blown applications to online apps.
Great.
Second, one of the biggest things that people are looking for in browser-based apps is the ability to collaborate with other people. And there have been some other applications that have been able to do that. Now, with PowerPoint Online, you can use Skype document chat, which is also built into Office 365, to do collaboration with your presentation. So if you have multiple people working on a presentation, using Skype document chat, those people can work on that presentation at the exact same time, which is really handy.
Yeah, can I jump in there, Matt? Actually, there was a question by Maria about Teams, which kind of I'll bring up. She asked, Teams seems to duplicate some features of Skype for business, which is also for conversations and collaboration. And I would say that Microsoft, and then you actually just brought this up, has a lot of their apps seem to overlap each other a little bit. And
yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I mean, there are just like with the full-blown desktop apps, there's usually 4 or 5 different ways to do the same thing, and I do think that there is some overlap with these applications. The more that Microsoft ties these things back together with Office 365, and I really see Teams as kind of being a hub to a lot of this as well. I think you're gonna find a lot of those features coming towards Teams and probably away from Skype, or somehow melding those together so it's a little more seamless.
sure.
Because as you said, Teams is fairly new. Skype has been around for a little while longer, so I think that's going to kind of work itself out through time.
Got it. Okay, cool. Want to tell us? I'm not familiar with the broadcast on presentation online.
Yeah, so this is pretty handy. So you can basically, there's a little share button within the web browser on PowerPoint Online, so that if you want to broadcast a presentation to one or many people. As long as your device is connected to the internet, you have the ability to do that from within the web browser and PowerPoint Online. So while we use a tool like GoToWebinar to do webinars, which is going to give us a lot more functionality, it's going to give us, the ability for people to ask questions, to do chats, to share different things. This is going to be a very simple and quick way to broadcast a presentation over the internet to several people from even a cell phone.
Okay, great. All right.
Very handy.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
A few tech tips, and that's a tongue twister, that I want to share with everyone here. First off, if you're looking for more training on some of these applications, and I use a program or an online service called lynda.com. And Lynda actually got bought up by LinkedIn, which got bought up by Microsoft. So there's different flavors of this. But if you go to Lynda, as it's spelled right there, Lynda, you'll find extensive training, not only for Microsoft applications, but a host of different things, everything from Adobe products to even just general marketing or sales, not even applications. So if you're looking for more extensive training on this for yourself or organization, I'd ask you to check out LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com. Microsoft just recently introduced another app called To Do. If you're looking for to-dos, that's a great way to do that one as well. So I just want to introduce that one, check that out. And hopefully our next Office 365 one, maybe we'll bring that one up. And finally, there was a question about, is Teams a mobile app? And I'll tie that back into the final bullet right here, which is Outlook for the iPhone. Microsoft is making these apps available for all mobile devices. So I highly recommend you checking out Outlook.
Teams is available.
Yeah, and Teams is available, Chris is telling me. And actually, I did download it and tried it out a little bit. It doesn't have all the full features because of the size of the screen, but you'll find that they're doing a pretty good job. And that's where I say where Outlook for iPhone is really pretty good. And the Teams one is real time as well. So as Chris was typing in a response to our contractor question, I would see that real time showing up in the Teams, and I would get notifications, all the things you might enjoy in iOS. So to answer the Teams question.
The apps for tablets are because the screen is bigger, it's much more easier to use on a tablet.
Okay, thanks, Matt. That's good. I think the one that I want to encourage, and I think, Matt, you use Outlook for iPhone quite a bit, correct?
I do. I had, I would say probably a year and a half ago, I had a lot of calendar issues with my iPhone syncing with Apple's calendar app. So I switched over when Outlook was released for iOS. I switched over to Outlook for both my iPhone and my iPad. And I get much more consistent working calendars, and I haven't had some of the bugs that I had before trying to use the Mail app or the Calendar app through Apple.
Great.
So I love Outlook.
Yep, I agree. Let's take any other questions. I've been trying to thread in a few here, and I'll go back up. Theo asked, what are the best practices for securing an account in Office 365? Go ahead, Chris, you got that one?
Sure. So we can put in place certain criteria for passwords and password protection. There's actually, I'm not quite sure if it's available yet, but there's a method for us as an IT provider to force password resets during a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. But there's also, what you can do is add multi-factor authentication to your Office 365. So it's another layer of password protection. We've actually been deploying it for some of our clients who would need to do that.
Yep. So the normal authentication and username and password, but you're saying something we recommend is starting to evaluate and see if it's a fit, and when it can be implemented is a two-factor or multi-factor authentication.
Correct. That's available for Office 365. It's actually free to add it on. It's just takes some training and deployment. But of course, always, as we always say in security webinars, Dave, password security, complex. Don't keep it the same across different avenues, and we can help with that.
Yeah, there's a lot to that answer about keeping.
Yeah, we could answer that question in a separate webinar for an entire time.
There was another question about pricing for nonprofits. There was some rumors that this option will go away. How likely is that to happen? Hard for us to say.
Matt, you might be able to answer that better than I. I haven't heard that rumor, but you're a little bit more in that area.
Yeah, I have not heard that rumor. I would be surprised because, Microsoft and Google are competing head to head a lot, and education pricing is similar. There is a kind of a baseline free for education pricing, the same as nonprofit. So anything is possible, but I'd really be surprised if they did away with that.
And I'd like to add real quick, Dave,
Mm-hmm.
your entire organization does not have to have the same license. So, for instance, a nonprofit may be able to add a higher level license to one or two particular
Okay.
users to get them an expanded set of features.
We actually do that here with us. I know that there's a group of us that have, because of the demonstration purposes and just functionality and need, we have one level, and other people within the organization can have maybe not as many features.
Correct.
Lower end licensing.
We have a nonprofit account who has a graphic design department who their users have a more expanded set of features. They do pay for those licenses. It allows them to download those desktop apps to their computers for free. That's included as part of the license. The rest of the organization has the nonprofit pricing, so they get the email, they get the Teams, the SharePoint, the OneDrive, and all that.
Kind of a question in here. Are we able to provide pricing on all levels for anyone, whether it be nonprofit? Can we help implement any level of solution for somebody out there, whether they're a nonprofit or they're the higher level services? Is there certain, I guess, providers? Because we can implement and provide Office 365 to basically anyone, can't we?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, the migration process is the same no matter which subscription you're on. It may require some additional training for these expanded features,
Yep.
but like I just said, we can add, we can increase, we can do more expansive licensing for separate users.
Yeah, and our value add to this is much more beyond that. And I'll just say a little bit about ease here is that, so we have all the back-end experience and capability to administer all this for somebody in an organization. I think what the question is here as well. So we have the experience, the knowledge, people like Chris, the expertise to help provide basically a virtual CIO about planning not only for the software, but for hardware and other types of technology needs you may have, whether it be phones and things like that too. So I think there was a general question that someone asked. I'm trying to answer it all there for Theo.
Sure.
I think we're getting close to wrapping up. There's a question here. Thank you. Save as you go. Is there a simple way to save with PowerPoint? With Save as you go, is there a simple way to save earlier versions of the PowerPoint file? Not sure. I think the traditional method, if you're using the desktop, you would save it as you normally would. You'd hit the save button. There's no auto feature that I'm aware of. And Matt, maybe you can jump in and tell me otherwise. But if you open that same PowerPoint into the online version, it'll automatically start saving for you. So you can open on older versions.
Correct. You would, at that point, you would want to duplicate a copy of that and start working off the new copy if you wanted version control. There's a little more, if you're working in a SharePoint environment, and we may go over this in a future webinar, there's a little more version control. But if you're working in the online version of PowerPoint, you would have to make another copy of that presentation if you wanted to save that in its state from where you last left it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. So our next webinar, we generally provide these about once a month, is keeping your client data secure in the cloud. And we'll be providing this webinar on June 28th, which is a Wednesday. Same kind of program as we have here today from 12 to 1. We'll focus a little bit on Office 365, a little bit more on the security side of things for you. We'll be elaborating a little further about things like Dropbox, OneDrive, some other cloud solutions about what's the best practices, kind of on that earlier question, about how to keep your client data, your data, and things like that more secure in the cloud. And we'll do that next month. And I'll send out some invites for everyone to participate. Finally, one of the things that we offer is a cloud solution, and that cloud solution takes the idea of Microsoft Office to the next step. So not only do we take the applications that are in the cloud and virtualize the whole the situation of the servers, we will virtualize everything. So we can virtualize your law office, your accounting programs, all the things that you'd be using in your office today, and eliminate the need to have to purchase servers and things like that. So you can basically work from anywhere on any device, We provide a way for you to decrease your capital costs and increase your security, and also, most importantly, things like your disaster recovery, because everything you're doing is then turned into the cloud. So imagine what you're doing with Office 365 and extended it out even further to other specific applications that are vertical to your office and what you're doing. So if you're interested in doing that, I'd ask that you please reach out and talk to me. And if you have other questions that are going on, we'd love to help you out. We have fortunate to have people like Chris and Matt that were helping us on the webinar, but this is what Ease Technology is all about. These gentlemen are part of our company. We go out and help our customers. And if you're working with anyone today that does not do this for you, these educational webinars, come out and speak to you, you should be talking to us. So we're here to help you out. We have a survey that goes out as well following up our webinar. We'd love to hear your feedback. The survey from January helped us put together this webinar, and hopefully you enjoyed it and would love to hear your thoughts on it. I did record the webinar, so I'll provide information about that recording. And just want to thank everyone and have a great afternoon. Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.